My dying uncle's final words changed everything about my family history because seconds before he passed away, he grabbed my wrist, looked directly into my eyes and whispered, "Ask your mother about the baby in 1987. Then he died. He stood frozen beside his hospital bed, trying to process what had just said. My Uncle Mike was my mom's older brother and one of the most respected people in our family. He was 70 years old and had spent months battling cancer. Every relative had gathered at the hospital to say goodbye, and until that moment, I thought this final words would be something meaningful about life or family. Instead, he left me with a mystery that made no sense. What baby? I was 30 years old and had never heard anyone mention a baby from 1987. My mother was sitting in the waiting room when I walked out. She immediately asked if Uncle Mike said anything before he died. These Kondi repeated his words. All the colour disappeared from her face. My stomach dropped because I'd never seen my mother look scared before. She quickly stood up and said he was confused from the medication. Then she walked away before I could ask another question, but something felt wrong. Growing up, my family always acted strange whenever conversations turned toward the late 1980s. There were photo albums with missing pages, family stories that suddenly stopped halfway through, and every time someone mentioned 1987, my grandparents would change the subject. I never thought much about. Until now, after the funeral, I started asking questions. Nobody wanted to answer. My grandmother claimed she could not remember. My aunts insisted. Uncle Mike was confused. My muff became angry every time I brought it up. The nun night while helping my grandmother clean her garage. I found an old cardboard box hidden behind shelves. Inside were photographic letters and newspaper clippings. At the bottom was a hospital bracelet with my mother's name on it, dated March 1987. My hands shaking because according to every story I had ever heard, my mother was away at college during that time. Then I found something else, a birth certificate application. The mother's name was my mom's, the father's name was blank. My heart nearly stopped. I drove her straight to my mother's house and confronted her. She stared at the document for what felt like forever. Then she started crying harder than I had ever seen. She admitted that when she was 19, she became pregnant after dating a man who disappeared. When he learned she was expecting, my grandparents were deeply religious and terrified of the scandal. They forced her to leave town and stay with relatives until the baby was born. Then they told everyone she was away attending a special college program. I could barely breathe. Then I asked what happened to the baby. My mother broke down completely. She said her parents forced her to place the child for adoption. She begged to keep him, but they refused. They threatened to cut her off financially and throw her out if she disobeyed. So she signed the papers through tears and never saw Wesson again. I thought that was the secret. Then she told me something even worse. My grandparents spent decades pretending the child never existed. They destroyed photograph shit. Shidtok forbade anyone from mentioning him. Uncle Mike was the only family member who stayed in contact with the adoptive family through letters. He secretly kept track of the boy for more than 30 years. My mother had no ID. Then I remembered something. Uncle Mike handed me an envelope a week before he died and told men are too penitent until after the funeral. I ran home and to right open inside was a photograph of a man standing beside two children. He looked exactly like my grandfather when he was young. Attached was a note written by Uncle Mike. It said, "This is your brother. He deserves to know he was loved." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the picture. A month later, Thiemann in the photograph, my mother's son, my brother, he was 35 years old, married and had children of his own. The first thing he said after meeting my mother was, "I spent my whole life wondering why you gave me away." My mother cried and told him the truth for the first time. They talked for hours and neither stopped crying. The saddest part is that my grandparents were already gone by then. They never apologized for what they did and never faced the consequences of the secret they forced everyone to carry. But as I watched my mother hug the son she had not seen in there, if someone's final wish was for you to reveal a family secret, would you keep that promise or take it to your grave?